Welcome back to Good Moms, Bad Choices.
I'm Erica.
And I'm Mila.
And it's Wednesday.
It's hump day, bitches.
Another Wednesday. Remember when we used to put our show out on Mondays?
No.
Yeah.
That never was a thing.
Yes, it was.
No,
we
it's not.
moved our show date.
No, the very first post we have, it says hump day.
It was Monday.
I'm going to scroll all the way back to the beginning just to prove to you.
I'm telling you that we moved it because we realized that it was not a good podcast day. I remember.
I do not recall that. I remember always being hump day.
Mm-mm.
Do you remember when
No, we actually then started calling it hump day because we're like, oh, this makes more sense.
Do you remember when we were parental advisory, good moms, bad choices?
That was dumb.
That
was a lot of words. And we only did that because the Thick podcast had remember Tabria's podcast? She had a line before the Thick podcast. So we were like, this must be how it's supposed to be.
And then we made that long ass email called parental advisory.
GMBC@gmail.com. Please don't email that email, please.
It's not going to get checked. Anyway, how are you, darling?
I'm good. It's rainy in LA. It's been raining and raining and raining, and I love it. Everyone's like freaking out. I mean, granted, my roof isn't leaking, so that's the blessing. I think a lot of people are freaking out because there's a lot of shit going on in their backyards and things. But I really like the rain. I feel like it's a renewal. And God knows LA needs to be washed
of its sins. I know.
Just green.
Yeah, we know we're dry as hell. I like it too. I've made every cold season recipe that I know. So far I've made chili. I made matzo ball soup.
What? You Jewish woman?
Sometimes. I like latkes too.
Okay.
After I've made mashed potatoes, I'll make latkes.
This is some Valley Girl shit for
sure. It really is. But no, I enjoy it. Watching movies, making hot chocolate. My immediate thing is go to the supermarket. So I've gone to the supermarket 3 times in the storm, but the lights went out the other day. I was like, this is new for LA. Okay.
So it's very Costa Rica.
I know. That's what I was thinking. I was like, I left the jungle to come back to the city jungle. What the fuck?
I know. Yeah, I've been enjoying it. I'm good though. I'm good. I'm feeling, I did meditation today, and I was really focusing on bringing in the joy today, because there's things in my life that are stressing me out a little bit, and I was like, no, bitch, not today, and not tomorrow, and not anymore.
I like that, bringing in the joy. I feel like that's necessary, because as an adult, you can wake up and immediately be with the stress.
I know, it was, because I checked my email, and I was like,
I mean, there's a lot of things to worry about, but there's so much not to worry about. Yeah. Let's introduce our guest. I was going to go on a deep dive, but let's not keep our wonderful guest waiting. Welcome to the show again, our favorite wealth witch in the world, Luz Warrior, the financial educator, author, and our friend.
Welcome back, Luz.
Thank you. Thank you all so much for having me back. It's truly an honor to be here with you all.
Yes, Luz, you are a fan favorite on the podcast, and I'm just so excited to have you. You know, this month we're in March. We typically focus on finances, so what better way to focus on finances than with Luz? And you have this new book out, The Wealth Warrior: 8 Steps for Communities of Color to Conquer the Stock Market, which, can be really intimidating. I think people hear the word stock market and they're like, not for me. I'll figure it out later.
I know, and I love that it's 8 steps to heal your money wounds and claim your abundance. Those are things we don't hear a lot, but I think it's so necessary to even acknowledge you have money wounds to begin with, to even start to claim your abundance. It's a whole relearning and process. So I love that your book addresses all of the things.
Yes, thank you. It's been definitely a labor of love. I think that my intention with this book is to make the stock market a lot less intimidating. Something that's really important and that I think we should really pay attention to is that the top 10%, the top wealthiest people, own 89% of the shares in publicly traded companies. And a lot of the reason for that is because we don't have accessibility to resources that make sense to us, that we can process. It is very intimidating. It's like speaking an entirely different language. And I've been studying it for such a long time. I've done my absolute best to simplify it. And I've seen so much money grow so effortlessly and easily via the stock market. And we are in such an important moment in time right now because we are in a down market, and shares are much more accessible right now because they are cheaper. And I think it's for those that are interested in the stock market, I think these types of resources are so important, and we just don't have enough of them.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm curious to know. I already know, but for those of you who are just kind of listening and tuning in, and maybe have never been introduced to Luz, Luz, I would love for you to share really like your journey into stock market, because I feel like people think that you come in and you have to be like super knowledgeable, and like maybe you come from finance, or like these are things that you like grew up knowing.
Or you took a college course and then you understood suddenly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I'm going to start with this because I know we love witchy things and just like connecting all the dots and destiny and all of that space. So I was, I want to say I was 17 years old, and one of my high school teachers was taking a group of students, myself included, to New York. And I couldn't even afford the trip. My teacher fronted for me to go to New York on this trip. I had $20 and we were going to be there for approximately 7 days. So $20 was supposed to like purchase food for me. Granted, there were some meals included. So from my perspective, I was like, I'll just wait until the next free meal comes throughout the trip. And I went, and I was so excited to be there. They were taking us on all of these incredible tours. And one of the tours was to go see Sally Jesse Raphael, or to go to the New York Stock Exchange. And I was like, I really want to go see Sally Jesse Raphael. Like, I want to know what the studio would look like that entire TV experience. And I got chosen to go to the New York Stock Exchange. And I remember being so upset. And I'm walking into this enormous building that is extremely intimidating. And I remember walking in and just feeling the energy. It's extremely masculine, heavy. I remember not seeing any women around other than the students and the teachers. And we went to ring the bell in the morning. And I also remember very vividly understanding that something really important was taking place in this building, that was impacting not only the United States, but whatever was happening was also rippling out into the entire world. Mind you, at the time, I was not living with my parents. I was a teen mom. I had a 3-year-old baby, maybe almost 4 at the time. I mean, it was a moment for me to like just be in the space coming from where I came from. And so I really feel like that moment almost gave me a glimpse, or maybe foresight, or planted a seed into what would eventually come in the future. I ended up later landing, a really big position at Netflix, big from my perspective, like coming from the hood, being a teen mom, all the things. And I was only the second Latina to be hired in the entire company. Mind you, we had already launched in all of Latin America, and they didn't feel the need for like Spanish speakers or anyone that understood that territory. So it was just like a big deal for me to be there, just like as a person of color. And I was so nervous about the amount of money that I was making, because it was the first time that I was making real money. I was working at a tech job in Beverly Hills. It was a big deal. And I remember just like praying for guidance on this money that was coming in. And simultaneously, I had this white colleague who would come to my desk and pester me about buying Netflix stock. And I was like, what the fuck with this guy? Like, I was so intimidated by him, and he would just like throw this stock market jargon. And I think he could tell like how I would shrink. Like, I can't have this conversation. Like, and we don't talk about the stock market. That's your world, bro, not mine, And he was just so persistent. And looking back, I realized like that he was what I was praying for, really. Like that's what I was praying for. And he was so patient, showed me his portfolio, which I'd never seen, like $1 million portfolio like that another human owned, and very transparent, and started to explain like, you're in tech, so you understand, you have this unique perspective. You need to be taking advantage of this and investing into Netflix stock. So it took him about, I want to say, a solid 6 months to convince me. I finally started investing. I invested $200 a month. And after a year, I saw that money pretty much double itself in just 1 year. So I saw, it grew exponentially. And I thought to myself, this is wild. I'm going to double my money. Instead of taking $200 a month, I'm going to take $400 a month, which was a pretty big expense for me at the time, because the way I was calculating it in my head was like, this is like a car payment that I'm making into this stock. But I started to really become a student of the market. I wasn't tapping him for resources. I just started to read books and really try to understand what it is that was taking place, because the way money was growing so effortlessly and easy was something that I'd never experienced. I mean, I come from immigrant parents that had 3-4 jobs just to sustain the household. So I computed, you have to work really hard to make a lot of money. And what I understood and what the stock market taught me is that you really need to understand how to let go of money and invest it in order to make a lot of money. Working more does not equate making more money. So that's kind of how this journey started. I invested in and around a total of $9,000, and I watched those $9,000 turn into $500,000. And I felt like I needed to share what I had learned, not be a gatekeeper, and provide like digestible resources. So that's kind of,
I mean,
how I got
that's so incredible that you start like to go to New York first of all, and have $20 in your pocket. God say, yeah, no, sorry, not Jesse. Sorry, Sally, Jesse, Raphael. It's not going to be this, but kind of give you a preview.
Like a foreshadowing.
Yeah, like into your future. And like, obviously you didn't even have a concept of what was to come. And then the prayer and it's showing up differently. And then we always talk about that too. And like your prayers and your manifestations showing up, not exactly how you think they're going to show up, but if you like really listen and if you really have your eyes open, you'll be able to catch them. And a lot of people don't. Like, their prayers are answered and they didn't even catch it. But you said something about like letting go of money, like not having fear around letting go of money. And I think that's really like, I think what for many people, investing in the stock market and crypto and all these different things, that's the fear, is like, it's like gambling. I mean, for me, even like Vegas is like not my thing. It's never been my thing. The idea of like giving my money away in hopes that I'm going to get it back. I mean, obviously Vegas is a different type of gambling. But even the stock market feels like a gamble, I think, for a lot of people, where you feel like, does this really work? How do I know like what to invest in? Or, if I give $1,000, like, is it just going to disappear? And, feeling like, does my whole life have to now be the stock market once I start investing? I'm going to have to check every day, all day. Like, how does that even work? Do I have to like be super invested in order to see my wealth grow?
And like, when can I take it out? Can I take it out? Can I like not take it out for 2 years? Maybe I'll never get it. Or like, it's this idea of this like fantasy, untangible world, because like literally I feel the same way about gambling. Like, I'm not a Vegas bitch. I'm not going to go put some money down and hope, like, no, I'm not putting my hard earned money and then like hoping it triples. But like, I think the difference is, it's like, that's a real gamble when this is an actual investment, but that they're both feel intangible in ways. Like, you may feel it, you may not. And so it feels like super scary. And like, not even that, like, Black History Month just passed. But I took my daughter to, she's in a dance school. Shout out to Heart Dance School. And they asked her to be in this Black History, lessons in Black History, like performance while we were in Costa Rica. And I guess the portion of the part of this is a long story, just okay. A portion of it is they cover the Birmingham bombings, and the little girls die, like a lot of people died. So she calls me. She's like, I don't want to be in it because it's scary. And I'm like, yeah, word, it is scary. And I remember learning about it. And, she's 8. And it's just like such, because they're around the same age, the girls in the church. And it's just like this such dark history, and that like at some point you have to learn it, and you're going to learn it. So we watched this entire like 2-hour dance performance, and there's acting and there's singing, and they cover like all the great black inventors, and they cover like how we were stolen from Africa. And midway through, I'm just realizing, like, I mean, not realizing, but it's just a reminder, the amount of like complexities that it takes for a lot of us to be here. And like when you're removed from your culture and your language and your safety, and money is not even something that you can earn, and you have no knowledge of it, and there's none given to you, and like your power is taken away. There's so much energetic complexities that come with embracing finances, even in this time, even in the freedom. So like a lot of the freedom and the ability to get to that place is your mindset and the energy around it, and it's just like historically, when you're an immigrant, or when you've had like generations and generations of just negative energy with finances and security, it is a very difficult concept to grasp and to understand. And you do say, like, someone comes to your desk and you're like, yeah, bro, that's all you, like that's your thing. Like your daddy did that for you. But it's like just understanding that this is also my right, and this is also something I can understand and grasp the knowledge of, instead of completely writing it off. It's just like historically it's been something that we've been not included in, so it's easy to not include ourselves and just say fuck it, like this is the money that I put in the bank, and not even go down the route. But like luckily you had the insight, and that pestering guy was like your blessing, like, hey bitch, hey, how about now, and then you actually taking the advice and investing the money, and like ending up with $500,000. That's a huge like discovery.
It is. And I think that I want to be clear that I do think that the reason it's so easy to compare gambling to the stock market is because the lack of education that we have. So if you're just investing without really having a full understanding of the stock market, it is like a gamble. And it's two-part, because you may not fully understand the company that you're investing in, which makes it really scary, but also you do not know how you're going to react. One of my favorite types of investments, or the reason why the stock market is my favorite type of investment, is because I feel like it is a window into my money wounds. The market itself, if we look at the way it moves erratically, like up and down, that is just collective energy of the most wealthiest people in the world, where the energy is generating more money, losing money, generating money, losing money. It's not almost, it is a direct reflection of our emotions. So I find it really interesting. For me, when I was really exploring my money wounds and my personal money relationship, the reason I loved the stock market so much is because it felt like a control center where I was able to control my emotions, my money story, and my narrative in real time, versus some elusive abundant experience where I could see abundant if I saw a lot of food on the table. I could see abundance if I had a happy day. I could see abundance in so many different ways, but I was never really getting to the root of abundance when it comes to money, like physical money, and generating actual money in the form of abundance. And the stock market really allowed for me to do that. And so it's almost like I use it as let's say you're trying to get spiritually healthy in all facets of your life. It's almost like the stock market for me is like my gym. That is where I go and work out my emotional money stories and my relationship in real time. And it has helped me tremendously. And I think, to go back into the topic of being scared to let go of money, we constantly talk about wealthy people being very greedy. And I think what we fail to admit is that greed isn't something that just exists with wealthy people. Greed is something that affects every single person. It's like jealousy. You can't escape it, you know, just because just because you don't have money, it doesn't mean you can't feel greed. We 1000% can feel greed. And so I think that's a really big misconception. And I think that to flip that, not being able to let go of money is a form of greed, even if that is to invest in yourself. You still feel like the money is better held in your hands, and you're afraid to invest it in a summit. You're afraid to invest it in a course. You're afraid to invest it in a vacation. You're afraid to invest in whatever it is that's going to improve you in the future. It's still a form of greed per se if you can't let it go. So it's such a layered topic,
when you
right?
said when I think about greed and I think about investing in yourself, I can't help but think about even our retreats that we do, and how a lot of women are interested in coming to these retreats. We just did one in Costa Rica. We have one in Mexico in July, and one of the biggest things that we hear is like, "Oh, I can't afford it," or "I'll go on the next one," or like, "I just can't," or "It's too expensive." And granted, these are all real things, right? Like I'm not one to tell someone, what their bank account looks like and what their capacity is for a trip like that. But what I do know is like when you do invest in yourself, like it comes back tenfold. And I've seen it with these women that come and they say, you know what? I said, fuck it. And I spent the money. And now I'm back home and I feel so much more valuable. I have so much more to offer. I got the raise that I've been waiting for. Now I'm ready and activated to do this or that. And that idea really manifests in all ways, whether it's investing in a trip, whether it's investing in the stock market, whether it's investing in yourself for that course. Like, in order to evolve, in order to grow, in order to expand, in order to make more money, you have to be open to letting go.
Well, there's this perception of like you said, like rich people are greedy, or like if you've grown up and you don't have like an abundance of, you have a perception of what rich people are like. But the truth of the matter is like, I even noticed, like, even growing up with like rich ass friends, it's like, it's actually the energy of not worrying about if it's coming or going. Like, girl, spend it. Like, girl, you're tripping. Like, I'll leave that food there. Whereas like I'm taking it home, knowing damn well I'm not going to eat it. I feel guilty leaving it because like someone could eat this food, but like it's actually the understanding that you let it go and that it easily flows back to you. It's like a constant flow. But a lot of times we've labeled it or perceived it as this like negative thing that it almost feels, for me sometimes I almost feel guilty like when I'm okay. Like, oh my God, like somebody else is not okay, but I'm okay now. But you know what I mean? Like, I'm working all this time to get to that point, and then you're like, you feel even weird being in the point of which you work to be in because you've perceived it a certain way. The other day I was watching a movie and I had this like brief thought, and it was crazy. Like, I don't know, they're supposed to be in a rich place and like a rich home. And I was like, oh yeah, they're rich. They have wallpaper. That's what I thought. I was like, oh, well, like, yeah, they're rich, wallpaper. And
So do we.
But then I was like, you could have wallpaper too.
You do. You do have wallpaper.
But I was just thinking for that brief moment, I'm like, what are you thinking about? Why are you thinking this way? And I was like, I literally told myself, like, you too can have wallpaper. But in my mind, I had written it off as this like very wealthy thing.
Something that I recently started practicing that you just reminded me of is when I have those types of thoughts, when I'm like admiring, for example, let's just take the wallpaper thing, then I will be intent on where is it in my space that I want wallpaper? What is it that I want to wallpaper? Where am I admiring abundance somewhere else that I can bring into my life to make me feel like rich like that, refresh. When I walk into a room. So for my my abundance board, my vision board, it's a compilation of little feelings that I've felt throughout the weeks that make me feel richer, that make me feel elevated, that I might not be thinking about had I not just experienced them, noted them down, and I'm making sure that I'm bringing those experiences into my space. I find it to be really helpful. Yeah.
Oh God, Jeffrey, Emily.
But I feel like I've those moments have come up a lot recently, just because I think you can tell me if you can relate to this too. Luz is like, our book is about to come out, you know, and it's like a major accomplishment to be able to like be a published author, and you know, like it's a tangible source of something you can see. It's black and white. It's like it's yours. There's an expectation. There's possibly critics, you know, and like just to be, you know, like see my dream come to full manifestation and be in a new world, like a new literary world. It's like, oh shit, like I'm proud, but I'm also like, there's also that a part of me that has that imposter syndrome, you know, like, do I belong here? And it's like, yeah, bitch, you do, because you're here. And it's also like just knowing like there has to be such a special and specific combination of people to for each of us to exist. You know, like two people around two people around two people amongst two people had to come perfectly together to make you. You know, like every story, like the fact, like how your mom got here and how your grandparents got here, and like the particular like combinations and like worlds and energies that had to exist for us to be created, for just for these like I'm always really obsessed with stories, like the behind the scenes stories of how things come to be, because a lot of times it is so magical, and like you are have a foreshadowing when you have $20 for a week and you're at the stock market only for you to be here and literally publishing and writing this full, you know, this your baby to the world about financial literacy. It's just like they're so like you had to really come into who you are and believe that you're that person in order to deliver this to the world, and it's going to affect and change so many people's lives. And it's like the sooner that we understand that our voice and our gifts and our purpose is so particular and special, and like there's no other combination of people that could produce these things, it's like we would have spent so much less time worrying about, you know, if we're where we're supposed to be and if we're like worthy. And you know, it's a lot of like unlearning those things to be present and to like, you know, come be in the moment and really like walk in the door and be like, I'm that bitch. But it's just like a lot of programming and reprogramming that comes around accepting that you can have these things, you can have wallpaper, you can write a book, you know. So I think it's such powerful work that you're doing.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I have to parent myself constantly, you know, like sometimes I wake up freaking out in the middle of the night, like, I wrote a book about the stock market. Like, what if I'm wrong somewhere in there? What if some white man comes and reads my book and tears it apart? Like, I constantly have to remind myself, like, this is my process. It is okay. Like, you know, but I feel like that part of it, I don't know if that will, honestly, I hope that never ends, because it means that I am striving towards achieving things that are so big, that I perhaps never saw myself doing, that I'm constantly having to remind myself, you belong, you're here. This is a new level of expansion, a new place you're reaching for. So, but yeah, a lot of parenting goes into it for sure.
Yeah, there's definitely moments for sure. I mean, today, the joy, like I had to like take myself down and be like, it's okay. Everything's going to work out. For me with, and we've talked about this on other episodes with you about like, you know, where your money wounds begin, and generally they begin in childhood, and feeling like, oh my God, like at some point something happened where you began to fear money, you began to fear, like feel like this idea of like that it's not, it's always going to leave your hands, or it's out of your control. And you know, me and Mila, we've had a lot of big accomplishments this year between, you know, putting out this book, you know, doing our 5th and 6th retreat in Costa Rica, opening up our podcast studio that we're sitting in right now, we actually just bought land in Costa Rica. And these are all like really big investments, like the biggest investments, taking out a loan that we like fucked up. Like we took out a really bad loan, and like now we're really having to like learn hard lessons about money. And, you know, some of these things have like triggered my money wounds of feeling like, oh my God, like, did I fuck myself? Or like, Are we gonna be okay?
Are we gonna go Are we gonna go bankrupt podcast? We're gonna go back to the living room. Oh my God.
And so, I've had to talk myself off bridges and ledges, and also there's also this thing that I have also knowing that even though I'm still working on my money wounds, I know too in my life, and I think it is a testament to my mom and her acquiring a lot of wealth later on in my life, and also me going to school with wealthy people, that watching them spend their money, like, and seeing that, like, there was no fear there. And for some reason with me in my life, like, whenever I'm at my last dollar, something always comes through. Something always comes through that it's like, we're going to be okay. Okay. And I just had to remember that even this morning when I was like, bitch, are you gonna be stressed out today? No, you're not. We're just gonna talk through some things and just like make sure, me and Mila are on the same page about what we have to do and like figure it out from there. And also like money's on the way. Literally, it's on the way. So just chill the fuck out. But like not spiraling out of control and just being like, girl, you're doing amazing. Like, look at all these things you've accomplished. You accomplished them because you've acquired the thing that you've been so afraid of from the beginning, and you've been able to like make these purchases, invest, and and people believe in your dreams and your ideas, and you have to like really be stand 10 toes down in that. And the fear will pop up, and you know what, you might make a bad investment in the stock market and it might fuck up. And that's okay, because that's how you learn not to do it again. Just like this really terrible loan that me and Mila took out. Like, I'm like, okay, well, I've learned my lesson. Like, I really need to ask a lot more questions. I really need to send a lot more emails. I really need to like have a lawyer look through the contract before I fucking sign it. And not just trust the invisible white man on the other end.
Because he is going to lie to you. Blatantly, straight face. He is going to lie to you, like, straight up. Don't think that nice man on the other side of the phone is not going to straight up fucking lie to you, because they do. And they will.
Yeah. I think this goes back to what you were saying earlier in terms of, investing into going to Costa Rica and having a powerful experience and making the space for it. I think what we really need to understand and lean into practice is when we let go of money, we're also making space for more money to come in. The tighter we hold on to the money that we have, it's like, imagine your arms are full holding the money that you have instead of letting go, opening your arms and releasing money to flow out, and making the space for money to come in. I can't tell you how many times I've stepped out in just faith that something is going to happen with no money, with no backup. And every single time I do that, I am always rewarded with so much more money. Like, it multiplies for me. And it's always incredible to witness. And also that the concept of, you have all of the experience where money has flowed in and it has saved you. And I think it's important for us to move into the space of it overflowing and not like meeting the end of the wire, like instead knowing that the wire is continuous and it goes on forever and ever. So no matter how much is spent, it's always going to return. Literally, the belief that money is it's like in a pizza pie versus it's infinite is such a disservice to ourselves, because I think, especially I know you all as entrepreneurs, you understand that you are the creators of money. You picking up the microphone, being the creators of money, investing into land in Costa Rica, and you know what that's going to return to you tenfold as you take more communities out there, what that's going to bring, how you're going to show up for community. And like, you get to say, yeah, I have investments in Costa Rica. Like, how fucking dope is that? How many of us get to say that? And then we get to hear you all say that, it makes it easier for us to be able to make those same type of moves. So, yeah, that's awesome. Congratulations. That's such a big
Thank
step.
you.
It's inspiring.
It felt really good.
Thank
you. Feels really good.
I was looking through your book, and I love how how easy it is to really understand. You know, I think that there's a lot of books around money that feel really overwhelming, and there's a lot of words that you feel like you have to Google, and then like, can I remember them? Do I know what they mean? And your book really breaks things down in, I don't want to say it's like stock market for dummies, because I know that book exists, and even that one I think is a little confusing. But it's like a real person's guide to understanding, like from the beginning. And you have this chapter where you talk about I think it's setting money intentions. Can you talk to us
Yeah.
about what that means?
Yeah, I think it's for us, setting money intentions for me is to simply set a goal with money, an intention with money on what you want to invest in. So, what's really important about the stock market is that it's time in the market. That's what's really going to make you wealthy. So, like, that's what has made Warren Buffett wealthy. It's not the selling of the securities. It's not the selling of the actual shares of the stock itself. It's spending time in the market. And so I always found, for me, when I am making an investment, I set an intention for that investment. So for example, with the Netflix stock, I told myself that that investment was one day going to buy me a house, which is crazy because you think $7,000, when has that ever been able to buy anybody a house? But I set this intention for myself, and I had to see it through. And in the midst of it, I got laid off. In the midst of it, 2 weeks after I got laid off, my partner got laid off. 2 weeks after that, we find out we're pregnant. We're moving into my sister's house. We're making all of these changes into our life. And the one thing I never did was sell the stock, because the intention for that stock wasn't to save my ass in case, we were trying for a child. What we didn't expect was to get laid off and to have the child happen at the same time. I didn't use that money to like save my ass there. I really kept the intention for it, and I was truly rewarded. Like, I was at the time, because I was an entrepreneur and I was bringing in not a significant amount of revenue in my business. I only qualified for a loan that was like $150,000, which limited me to where I could buy a home. I moved out here to Texas for that reason. But also I was able to pull 120,000 from the stock market to add to that loan and not limit myself to a certain area or constrict me in any way. I completed the intention for that money. So it's really important for me, as you move through the 8 steps in the book, that it's very relatable, it's very intentional. And also, my story is interwoven throughout the entire book. So it doesn't feel heavy in that you're learning 8 steps. Like you said, it is relatable, but my own personal story is just mixed in there, which helps you take a brain break, understand my perspective, where I'm coming from in terms of money wounds, what I've had to overcome to get to this place, to hopefully inspire others that they can also do the same and make these types of investments.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really important, is like the victimhood part. And you have this part, I love it. It says put a lid on the pobrecita yo and step out of victimhood, and like basically put a lid on like poor me and step out of like, that everything bad always happens to me, or I'm not good with money, or money is the root of all evil. And like, you've said this before, and I remember you talking about that. A lot of people think that money is the root of all evil because, we see how capitalism, is just, you see how it works here in America. But it's a tool. And if you know how to use the tool, then it doesn't have to be evil. It actually work in your favor. It can work for you. It can work for your family. It's just you have to get out of this victimhood mentality and really address your money wounds to really be able to start reprogramming and rewiring your mind around this concept of money. And
Yeah, and a lot of the times,
no, go ahead.
Sorry
No, go ahead.
to interrupt. A lot of the times it's really hard for us to see our own victimhood, right? Like, it's really hard for us to realize, like, oh shit, I'm really behaving like a victim in this moment in time, especially when it comes to money. It's so challenging, which is why it's important to always have, I think like a safe community, a partner, friendships, where you're able to call those things out with one another. Like, hey, you're behaving like a victim when it comes to this specific issue here, because I was doing that. I was really good at owning my shit everywhere else. But for whatever reason, when it came to money, I really believed poor me. Like, I really, really believed that I was at a strong disadvantage. It wasn't until I understood that today, in this day and age, our thoughts are currency. You know, when back in not that long ago, seashells were currency, but today, in this day and age, our thoughts are what is currency. And I can tap into those thoughts, and I can capitalize on those thoughts, and at the same time improve and make better for my community. It's not just all about me, it's also about what I'm doing for my community, what I'm reflecting.
Speaking about your community, I'm interested in, I mean, I know you're an educator and you teach a lot of people. Do you have any like success stories that you can share with us that maybe like were just really, surprising, or just really impactful, or really left a mark on you?
Yeah, one of the biggest things for me early on, tying this back to victimhood, is that I felt that everybody else had the same money story as me. So, like, I felt sorry for myself in certain areas, or I don't have money for this, I don't have money for that. And I would impose those stories onto people outside of me. Like, they probably don't have money for that. They probably don't have money for this. Not even like, I was basically just assuming that because I'm broke from my perspective of this space, that so is everyone else in my community. And I've really had to work through that, because that's what stopped me early on adequate pricing on any experiences that I was providing, whether it was live events or whether it was courses. Like, I had to understand that it's not me I'm selling to. That yes, there is a lot of me that's coming out in this work, but I can't assume that everyone's in my financial situation. And so I think what has been the most eye-opening is when I get to have one-on-one, which I do from time to time with our students, and I get to see their portfolios. And I'm looking at like $100,000 portfolios, $200,000 portfolios, or even just 30,000, 40,000, 50,000. And they started investing with me in 2020. And I'm like, dang, like, you're really out here doing, like, you've taken everything I've said and you really are out here applying it. And it's that, to me, blows my mind, when they were like, before you, I didn't even have a portfolio, and just getting to look at commas and zeros is like, this is real. Like, I know it's real, but I think, like, I know it's real because I see it in my life, but to get to see it reflected, and to get to see our students have some incredible portfolios, and then do boss shit, like sell a portion of the stock and go purchase a house for an Airbnb. And I'm like, yes, like, this is what I'm talking about. It's not just about investing in the stock market. It's about understanding that the stock market is accessible to us. I don't give a fuck what they say. Like, it is accessible to us. There's a book here, 8 steps on how to do it. That's one small component. It's important for us to diversify, also have real estate, invest in other things as well, but make sure that we understand that we can play in this space, and that it may feel hard, but it's really not as hard as we make it out to be. We're not scared to drop $1,000 on an iPhone. We're not scared as content creators. We're not scared to drop $1,000 on a microphone. You know what I mean? And it's that same thing. We're investing into these companies that are making so much money off of us already. It's just securing a part of their bag. That's all it is. It's not necessarily that you have to do anything that's risky. It's paying attention to what it is that you're consuming and what your business is dependent on. If you take payments through Square app, if you use Squarespace, if you use an iPhone, it's just really taking a look at all of the things that not just you are dependent on, but that you are very dependent on, and so is your community. It's just tapping into that company and taking a piece of their bag. It's so important for us to understand that space. and they've been dominating it for way too long. The amount of people that buy direct stock in the United States that isn't tied to their 401ks is only 15%. So out of all of the Americans in the United States, only 15% own stock directly. And out of those 15%, 10%, the top 10% own all 89% of shares. So it's only the elite that are tapping into this. And it's not that they just understand, everyone is dependent on Apple. It would make sense that if the United States is depending on Apple, then perhaps this might be a company I should take a look at investing into.
I think a lot of people think like, oh, it's too late for that. Oh, I'm too late to invest in Apple. I'm too late to invest in Netflix. Like, I don't even know, like, I think that that's also been my mindset too around it. Like, oh, I didn't get in early, so it doesn't, I missed that. That ship has sailed, and what I'm hearing is it's not true. And I know, like, even from our previous conversations, and what I think you're also saying here too is that you need to invest in what you know. Like, don't invest in shit you don't know shit about. Mm-hmm. Like, if you're an iPhone user, hello, like, if you use this, what is it that adds value to your life, and invest in that. Don't invest in like random. I mean, I know cryptocurrency is a whole other ball game, and I even invested in crypto early, and I didn't know what the fuck I was doing at all. Literally, my friend did it for me. She took my phone and and did it. I was like, what is Ethereum? I have no idea what the fuck this is, but I'm investing. And, I watched it grow, and I still didn't know shit about it. And I also watched it totally leave because I didn't know anything about it. Yeah. I invested in something I know absolutely nothing about, and I didn't educate myself. And I just said, I want to get on the bandwagon before it's too late. And, that's my mistake. And I think that's the mistake of a lot of people. And then they get defeated. And they're like, okay, well, this isn't for me. I'm not going to do this.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think also, like, to take it back to missing the boat on something, I think it's important for us to understand a couple of things. The first is that Netflix is still a really young company. Like, let's look at big time companies in the stock market. We're talking Johnson & Johnson, we're talking Coca-Cola, we're talking McDonald's. How old are those companies? People are still continuously buying shares into those companies because they feel that we will still be addicted to Coke come 10, 15 years from now. We'll still be eating cheeseburgers at McDonald's. Like, so compare the weight of that company to companies that are newer, like an Apple, like a Netflix. I mean, imagine if at 10 years of Walt Disney being a company, people were like, I can't invest in this anymore because I missed the boat. We're looking at a really old company that is still extremely valuable and is promising into the future with their streaming service. There's always going to be innovations. I'm not saying to invest in any of those companies. I'm just using them as as just to show you how they're actually really young companies. Netflix didn't even become profitable until 2021. That's how new it is. It's still reinvesting into itself. It's still figuring things out. So yeah, I think there's a real opportunity here. And, I think also blockchain technology is incredible. It's still really early though. We're looking at a new asset class. So what we're looking at is a new type of currency that is being built in our lifetime. The dollar bill existed long before us. So imagine this new currency. We should expect for it to come up and come down and come up and come down. We also had a really unique experience in 2020 with the pandemic where everything just kind of ran up really high, and now it's just giving back all of those gains, which is what took place with Ethereum and Bitcoin. But I think in the long run, we're going to see these types of investments like real winners. Not all of blockchain, not all of, like, I'm just talking about Bitcoin and Ethereum specifically. I don't know about the other coins or anything like that, but I do think that asset class is still really brand new, young, and it still has a lot of potential for the future.
Are there any companies that you would recommend investing in now?
So I can't, like, legally, like by law, I wouldn't be able to give any tips on what to invest in. But I think what's really important for us to understand that is really hot right now, and it has been for a while. I've been into this for a while. It's AI. It's artificial intelligence. Understanding where artificial intelligence is going to take us. That was why I began investing in Tesla, you know, before, because I didn't feel people saw Tesla as an electric company. I didn't see it as an electric company. Actually saw it as a artificial intelligence car. That's the way I looked at it. That's the way I continue to look at it. They still have the most data that they're retrieving from their AI, but I do think that's the future. And a lot of these companies are implementing AI technology. And so I kind of feel like AI is like going to be the new gold rush of our lifetime. That's going to be the next big thing. So I would say that if you're going to invest in anything, investigate whether that company is dabbling in artificial intelligence and what their plans are for that artificial intelligence.
Scary.
So scary. That's the part that shit scares me, and that's why I get stay away from it too.
You know, I know, and it's true. It's like I think people hear AI, or at least I do, and I almost like want to reject it immediately.
I think of like Will Smith and iRobot.
Well, I think of the root of all evils, and I think, okay, if I can look at money as a tool, then I could look at AI as also a tool, and not look at it as this like super scary thing that's gonna like ruin society.
Well, that's the thing about perspective too. Like even what Luz was just saying about, like having, like assuming that like people are in the same financial situation as you too. It's like having trouble pricing your merch, or your the things that you have in business, or like having this fear, like, or even if you've like scrolled through Instagram and you see like rich bitches and you're like, oh fuck them, like they have this or they have that, like you make an assumption about them. And the same way you're like, oh well, my friend was struggling 3 years ago, she's probably still struggling, I don't want to talk too much about this, or I don't want to make my candles super expensive, or like am I worth this price? But it's like you have to shift that mentality and know that you're on, like, every people, there's more than enough for everyone, and it's worth what you're selling, it's worth what you're pricing it as, and you're worth what you're doing, and you're worth, like, deserving of this amount, this price point, like, it's so interesting how our minds shape the way that we like perceive things and accept them in our personal lives.
True.
Yeah, it is.
Well, Luz, before we leave, we have two things we have to address. A, I would love if you shared an affirmation with our audience.
Yes. So this affirmation is tried and true for me. It is an affirmation that parents me. I'm sure I've said it in the podcast before, but it is still the affirmation that holds me solid day in and day out. And it is, I am unlimited supply. It just, I can't let go of it. It's my daily affirmation. And it really just reminds me that I'm not dependent on money outside of me. I'm not dependent on what money is doing outside of me. I am solely dependent on my intelligence in my head, and how that sustains me, and it sustains my family, and it sustains my community.
Unlimited supply.
I am unlimited supply.
I love that. And we also pulled a card at the top of the show. Before the show. And Luz, you pulled the Chariot card.
The Chariot. It usually means control, willpower, success, action, determination. The Chariot is a card of willpower, determination, and strength. You have discovered how to make decisions in alignment with your values with the Lover's card, and now you are taking action on those decisions. When the Chariot appears in a tarot reading, take it as a sign of encouragement. You have set your objectives and now channeling your inner power with a fierce dedication to bring them to fruition. When you apply discipline, commitment, and willpower to achieve your goals, you will succeed. Now isn't the time to be passive in the hope that things will work out in your favor. Take focused action and stick to the course. No matter what challenges may come your way, because believe me, there will be challenges. You may be pulled in opposite directions and find your strength and conviction tested. Others may try to block you, distract you, or drag you down the pursuit of your goal. But the chariot is an invitation to draw upon your willpower and home in on what's essential to you so you can push past the obstacles in your way. Willpower and focus.
Yeah.
Got you to be the wealth warrior, so seems on point.
Yeah. And for those listening, like, yes, focus and willpower is what it takes, really, I think, to be successful in all ways, and to go down this road of, feeling confident in the stock market or whatever it is that, whatever avenue you're using in order to invite more abundance and cash flow into your life. So thank you. Thank you for that.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you for having me. The book comes out April 11th. I wanted to make sure I share that. And it's pre-order right now. You can get it at Target, Walmart, Barnes & Noble, Amazon.
And
yeah.
Yes, and we'll make sure to put, if you click the link in this episode description, you can pre-order Luz's book today, Wealth Warrior, 8 Steps for Communities of Color to Conquer the Stock Market. And where else can our people find you?
Yes, you can find me on Instagram at Luz Warrior, and our business Instagram, where we give all the stock market news, at In Luz We Trust.
And also, Luz has amazing courses. Make sure you check out her courses and tap into her community so that you can feel supported and know you're not alone in your journey into abundance and wealth. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Luz,
for joining us.
Yes, thank you.
And you guys know where to find us at goodmoms_bad choices on Instagram. Make sure you also click the link in this episode description to check out our next retreat. We're going to Mexico, Sayulita, Mexico. It's about an hour from Puerto Vallarta. And we're taking two groups of amazing women out there. So if you want to invest in yourself, also make sure you check out at the Good Vibe Retreat on Instagram as well. Make sure you check out our merch. We're wearing it. If you're on YouTube right now, you can see I'm wearing our black as fuck, fine as fuck, mom as fuck, new long sleeve shirt. And Mila's actually wearing our jersey. We have a really cool little tribe jersey. So check us out. Check us out. Support Black and brown women. And we love you. And we'll see you next week.
Bye.